All right, let's get right into it. Consider this your 10-minute mission. The objective, to finally take back control over the one thing that feels totally out of our hands, falling asleep. We're going to build a step-by-step flight plan to get you from wide awake to deep rest, and fast.
We've all been there, right? You're staring at the ceiling, doing that desperate, frantic math in your head. It's this universal feeling of bedtime stress, where the more you know you need to sleep, the more your brain just decides, nope, we're staying up.
There's actually a scientific name for that frustrating gap between getting into bed and actually falling asleep. It's called sleep latency. And the sweet spot, the goal we're aiming for, is somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes. If it's taking longer than that, you're officially in the struggle zone. But the good news is we can absolutely shrink that window. And here's the crazy part, the ultimate irony of it all. Trying to force yourself to sleep actually creates a state of physical stress called hyperarousal. It's kind of like slamming on the gas when you're trying to park your car. It literally makes it impossible for your brain to start the sleep process.
So this is the big mental shift we have to make. We need to stop fighting our brains and start working with our bodies. Instead of falling into that trap of trying harder, we're going to use some very specific physiological triggers, signals that tell our nervous system loud and clear that it's safe to power down for the night.
So let's start our pre-sleep flight plan with mission prep. These first 2 minutes are all about locking down your external environment. Because think about it, you can't really expect your internal systems to shut down if your surroundings are basically screaming, "Hey, wake up!"
Now here's something that might flip what you thought you knew about sleep. We tend to think our body temperature goes down after we're asleep, but the science shows the opposite is true. A drop in your core body temperature is one of the most powerful biological triggers that actually starts the whole sleep process.
So what's the magic number? Well, according to the Sleep Foundation, the sweet spot is somewhere between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. I know, that might feel a little chilly when you first get into bed, but trust me, that cool air is the exact go signal your brain has been waiting for. Next up, we initiate a total blackout. Even the tiniest bit of light can hit the brakes on melatonin, which is your body's natural sleep hormone. So this means getting some blackout curtains or a really good sleep mask. And listen, if you absolutely have to look at your phone, you've got to turn that brightness all the way down. That blue light is the #1 enemy of sleep because it basically tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime. Okay, environment secured. For the next 5 minutes, we're moving on to an internal systems check. We're going to shift our focus from the outside world to releasing all that physical tension we're holding inside our bodies. This is a classic technique. You've probably heard of it, progressive muscle relaxation. And it's a classic because it works. You're basically going to manually break your body's tension feedback loop. Start with your toes. Squeeze them as tight as you can for 5 seconds. And then, just let go completely. Feel that? Now, you just work your way up your body, tensing and releasing. The goal here is to feel heavy, like you're literally sinking right into your mattress. Now you've got to pay special attention to these 3 micro-tension traps. Most of us carry a ton of stress in our faces without even knowing it. So first, unclench your jaw. Let it hang a little loose. Okay, this next one is a total game changer. Let your tongue fall from the roof of your mouth and just rest it. It sounds weird, but it makes it much harder to have that running monologue in your head. Finally, soften the little muscles around your eyes. No squinting, no frowning. Now that your body is getting relaxed, your heart rate is probably starting to slow down on its own. But we can actually speed up that process. You can't just tell your heart to beat slower, but you can sneak in through a back door, your lungs. This is the famous 4-7-8 breathing technique. Let's just walk through it real quick. First, you exhale everything. Make a little whoosh sound. Then you inhale quietly through your nose for a count of 4. Now hold it for a count of 7. This is the most important part. And finally, exhale slowly through your mouth for a full 8 seconds. You only need to do this about 4 times to feel a massive difference. So why does this work so well? It's not magic, it's pure biology. That long 8-second exhale stimulates something called the vagus nerve. The easiest way to think about it is that it's your body's emergency brake pedal. When you activate it, it kicks in your rest and digest system, which actively brings down your heart rate and your blood pressure. It's literally a biological off switch.
Okay, we're on the final approach. Your room is cool and dark. Your body feels heavy and relaxed. Your breathing is slow. Now it's time for the final boss, quieting that monkey mind. This is where we stop those racing thoughts dead in their tracks.
You know when your brain gets stuck in those repetitive narrative loops, replaying some conversation from earlier or worrying about tomorrow?
You have to break that pattern. So we're going to look at two really powerful techniques that are designed to do just that.
First up is the legendary military method. This was supposedly developed for U.S. Navy pilots who had to be able to fall asleep in under 2 minutes, even in incredibly stressful situations. The secret is to just hold a single, peaceful image in your mind. This is the one that works for most people. Just picture yourself lying in a canoe on a perfectly calm lake, just staring up at a clear blue sky. That's it, nothing else.
Now, if the canoe image isn't working for you, no problem. Try this one instead. You're lying in a black velvet hammock in a pitch black room. And if you're just not a visual person at all, you can use the mantra. You just repeat, don't think, don't think, don't think, over and over again. It's kind of like a brute force way to just block out that inner voice.
Okay, but what if your brain is still fighting, still trying to make sense of things? Then we need a totally different strategy called cognitive shuffling. The logic behind this is absolutely brilliant. You see, right as you're falling asleep, your thoughts become random and disconnected. This technique copies that process. It scrambles your brain's logic circuits and basically tricks it into thinking, oh, I guess it's time for sleep now.
Here's exactly how you do it. Pick a simple, totally neutral word, something like bedtime. Start with the first letter, B, and just start visualizing random things that start with B, like ball, bear, bicycle. The key is to not make a story. When you run out of B words, move on to E. Elephant, egg, ear. It's so boring and illogical that your brain's planning center basically just gives up and shuts down.
But let's be real for a second. What if you've done everything right and you're still just awake? It happens. The most important thing in that moment is to have a contingency plan. And that plan is called the 20-minute reset rule.
The rule is simple, but it is non-negotiable. If you've been lying there for about 20 minutes and you're not asleep, you have to get out of bed. Because if you stay there feeling frustrated, you're teaching your brain that your bed is a place for stress. Go to another room, do something totally boring in dim light, like read a physical book, not your phone. And don't even think about going back to bed until you feel that physical wave of sleepiness. Oh, and for real, hide your clock. Watching the minutes tick by is the absolute worst thing you can do.
So let's just recap the entire mission. This is your pre-sleep flight plan, a simple checklist you can run through every single night. Check your environment, make sure it's cool and your phone is down. Relax your body, drop that jaw, soften your eyes. Breathe, use the 4-7-8 pattern. And finally, direct your mind, visualize the canoe, or try shuffling a seed word.
The big takeaway here is that falling asleep quickly is a skill. It's something you can practice and get better at, not some nightly struggle you just have to suffer through. By using this flight plan, you are taking active control of your own body. So the only real question left is, which part of this plan are you going to launch first tonight?